Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea City. Eagles win week one, but even more importantly, as Bo Wulf writes at Over the Athletic, they were actually fun to watch, and Bo Wulf joins us right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Bo, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you jumping on, and I love what you wrote about because it's so true. This team was actually fun to watch on Sunday. 2019, 2018, 2020, there was just so much angst and drama. It was like we actually got to sit down and watch a team play football without any strings attached.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there are a lot of factors here. One being that when you enter a season with no expectations, right, it is a little bit more freeing. But also, that was as complete a performance. Who knows? The Falcons might be pretty bad, but that was as complete a performance as we've seen in a long time from the Eagles. The margin of victory was bigger than any game they had last season. Then you have to go all the way back to 2019. So, you saw guys in space. You saw new things. Every game, as you said, is not like some discussion about whether Carson Wentz is a good quarterback or not. Like, is he the right guy to lead the franchise? There's sort of this refreshing nature to this season with a new coach, a new quarterback, a completely new scheme, but also some of the old guys like Jason Kelce and Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox making noise. It's kind of nice, it feels like, to just be able to watch this group in a totally different context.
You bring up Zach Ertz's quote in your article in The Athletic about the fact that this is the most fun he's had in a while coming to work. And how do you quantify that? Like, how do you point in what direction? Who deserves credit for that? Is that the coaching staff? Is it upper management? Is it the players in the locker room? Why was it more fun?
Yeah, I think that Nick Sirianni gets pretty much all the credit for this. We have talked about how sort of silly and nervous he was during that introductory press conference, but he has been able to find a way to not only get past that, but use that as sort of like a motivational tactic for the team. Like, he has sort of made fun of himself in front of the team about that introductory press conference and use it as an example of a way to sort of get over something that was a disappointment. And I think what Zach Ertz said matters. Like, he did not want to be here at the end of last season. He certainly did not expect to be here, but he came back and he sort of got to experience I sort of don't like to use the word culture, right? But at least the program that Nick Sirianni was building and the different emphases that he has. And Sirianni does all the time about the importance of connection. And I think, when you have a group like the Eagles do in the locker room that has a lot of guys who are 30 years or older, something like that sort of runs the risk of falling on deaf ears. But to their credit, to the credit of guys like Cox and Kelce and Zach Ertz, they have bought into that. And I think it has played out really well. It just anecdotally from being there every day at training camp, it does seem like the vibes have been strong with this team throughout. So who knows if that will keep up, if they hit a losing streak here and once they hit some adversity. But for now, it does seem like, these guys are having a lot of fun.
Digging deeper into the Sirianni aspect, you mentioned about how camp was. And for you, what is the real difference between Sirianni this year and Doug Pederson last year? Because I don't think that Doug Pederson was some abomination coach. It's not like he was Rich Kotite or the end of the Chip Kelly era or something like that. But they're obviously
Super Bowl.
Well, right, exactly. But what is the difference between Pederson in 2020 and Sirianni in 2021?
So I think the biggest difference is not about, Doug, the head coach, or Sirianni, the head coach. I think it's about the offense. And, Doug Pederson was hired not just to be the head coach, but also to implement the offensive scheme that the Eagles wanted. And the offensive scheme felt stale over the past, really since the Super Bowl. I called it the Bog offense. Everything was very difficult for them on offense. They're running the 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. They're not getting the ball down the field. And I think what Sirianni has done, again, through one game when they had the entire offseason to prepare, so we don't want to overrate it, but it seemed like he had a lot of answers for Jalen Hurts, and he built the offense, at least the game plan in week one, around the kinds of things that his players could do well. So that meant, having a quarterback-inclusive run game. That meant allowing Jalen Hurts to get outside the pocket. That meant, having guys like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside on the field to block and not asking him to go win one-on-one against a cornerback. It meant getting the ball to the hands of Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor quickly, because those guys have speed to burn. And it seemed like that was what stood out to me, was that everybody was being asked to do things that they are good at, and they were not really being asked to do things that they can't do well. So instead of last year when Jalen Reagor is asked to go be on the outside and win one-on-one in man coverage, which is not something that he has proven he can do, instead Sirianni is putting guys in positions to succeed, and I think that really stood out in terms of Jalen Hurts' play.
Bo Wulf from The Athletic joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Bo_Wolf on Twitter. Check out his latest article on The Athletic. Meet the 2021 Philadelphia Eagles, who happen to be pretty fun. Great read over there on The Athletic. Bo, with the offense, one of the biggest talking points of the offseason was the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, right? Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a perspective. And I kept falling back to the point where, to me, Bo, this guy's a leader. And at the end of the day, you needed that kind of leadership if you're going to make the change from the Wentz era to a new era.
Yeah, and I think that you have seen that in just the way that Hurts connects with his teammates. It's not just, the young guys on offense who came in his draft class, like Jalen Reagor and Quez Watkins. It's not just, a guy like Devontae Smith who played with him at Alabama for a little bit. It's guys like Lane Johnson, who's been in the league for a long time. These guys do sort of look to Jalen Hurts, not necessarily as like the leader of the team, but as a guy who they can count on and they know is working as hard as anybody else. And he has this sort of preternatural calmness about him, Jalen Hurts does. And you sort of saw that in the 2-minute drill in week one at the end of the first half. They've got the ball on the Falcons' 40-something yard line with the minute 40 to go and 3 timeouts, and they're taking their time. They're not rushing because they don't need to. And he ends up making a play on that touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert that really sort of changed the game from there. Instead of going in at the half up, 10-6, they're up 15-6. So I think that Jalen Hurts, aside from his qualities as a quarterback, and, he'll never be like the most perfect pocket passer. I think, the Eagles have to build around what his skills are. But just him as a leader and as the guy in the locker room, I think he is everything that you would want as a quarterback. I think he is as advertised.
Do you think, as a general principle, people don't value the intangibles like that Jalen Hurts has enough for the quarterback position?
I don't know. I think that sometimes those intangibles can be a little bit overrated. And, you look at a guy like Justin Herbert with the Chargers, a guy who was dinged for his intangibles because he's a little bit more of an introvert and not like a rah-rah guy. Well, guess what? He's awesome, and he might be the best young quarterback in the league. So I think we can tend to overrate that stuff. But there's no doubt that the influence that Hurts has on the locker room is real.
Bo, let's flip over to the defense. I want to get your perspective on what Gannon did on Sunday, because I feel like that was a defense that realistically we haven't seen in a long time in Philadelphia. This wasn't the Schwartz wide 9. This wasn't Billy Davis, whatever he was trying to do at times. This wasn't Juan Castillo's defense, right? This is a very different defense that we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, well, and it was a lot different than certainly what you saw with Jim Schwartz. And I think we'll see it be even more different as the season goes on because, with Jim Schwartz, it was this is what we do it well, and we know what our strengths and weaknesses are, right? We're going to line up, play 4 guys. We're not going to blitz. We're going to play mostly, man-to-man in the back. And with Gannon, that was not the case. We saw 3-4 down linemen a bunch of times. We saw a bunch of different looks, and I think we're going to see even more different looks as the season goes on. I think Gannon was sort of hiding stuff once this game got away from the Falcons. And there was a lot of rotation on the back end, too. Like, of course, Jim Schwartz rotated up front, but we saw 2 different groups of linebackers playing in base and nickel. We saw a bunch of different stuff. I think this defense and what Jonathan Gannon does is as exciting a thing that we're going to follow as the season goes on.
One of the things on the TV broadcast that Greg Olson brought up was that he mentioned the fact that Sirianni and Gannon are both former position coaches and the value that they bring from being position coaches to their current jobs. Do you think that played a factor in the game on Sunday and a factor moving forward?
Well, I think that's hard to say, but I think that one thing you can say is that throughout training camp and throughout every time that we've talked to Nick Sirianni, he emphasizes the importance of teaching and teaching the fundamentals. And obviously that is a result of him having been a position coach. I would imagine that almost every head coach was a position coach at some point, right? But he seems to have brought those lessons with him, the importance of emphasizing the fundamentals and stuff like that. And, for 1 week, it worked out. Now they have some things to clean up. It wasn't a perfect game. They had a bunch of pre-snap penalties on offense. They had a bunch of missed tackles on defense in the first quarter. So there's still room to grow for sure.
You mentioned still room to grow. Obviously, nobody in their right mind is predicting this team to go 17-0, but was there enough positives from week one for you to look at this team and say, I can see a pathway for them to get to maybe 8 or 9 wins this year, whereas maybe previously a lot of people were wondering if they would hit the over 6.5 line in Vegas?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that is within the realm of possibility. I mean, first of all, you've got a division that is pretty weak. Who knows what happens with Ryan Fitzpatrick in Washington, but that's not a team that should scare you. The Giants, I think, are going to be really bad. And who knows what happens with Dallas. And, all of a sudden that week 3 game on Monday night in I guess 1 week with the Eagles and Dallas is going to be an interesting game. Right now the Eagles are the only team with a win in the division. So we'll see what happens. The beginning of the schedule is difficult for the Eagles. They've got the Niners at home this week. After the Cowboys, they've got the Chiefs. Then I think they've got the Panthers on the road, and then I want to say the Chargers after that. So, the Bucks is first, and then they played the Chargers later. So it's going to be an interesting season. I'm not so sure that 9 wins is not possible. I think that is definitely within the range of possibility. And if Jalen Hurts continues to play like this, and they continue to put him in positions to succeed, and he doesn't turn the ball over, I don't think there's any doubt that this could be a playoff team, especially because of the state of the division.
At the end of this season, what quantifies a successful first year for Nick Sirianni in your mind?
I think the most important thing to see is that the offense looks like it can create interesting opportunities. If this looks like a good offense, if it's a top 12 offense in the league, given their personnel, I think that is probably long-term the biggest sign of positivity that you could get. Now, if Jalen Hurts establishes himself as a franchise quarterback, that's great. That's sort of better than you could hope for, because the Eagles obviously have an opportunity this offseason with all their draft picks and opening up some cap space to be able to address that position if Hurts doesn't prove to be the case. In which case, I think you would want to know that Sirianni is the kind of guy who could develop a young quarterback if that's the case. But I think if you just see tangible improvement on every side of the ball, and things are not cratered by injury to an aging offensive line, I think that's reasonable expectations to have.
He is Bo Wulf from The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter at Bo_Wulf. Give him a follow. Also, subscribe to The Athletic like I do. Check out all of his work over on The Athletic. Great coverage from him, Zach Berman, and the gang over on The Athletic. And he joined us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Bo, keep up the great work. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Have a good night.